What's up guys, this is Saiyan here coming at you with another Dragon Ball CCG deck profile. As I promised to some of you, I do indeed have a Frieza evolution deck for you guys here. So without any further ado, let's jump into the deck and see what I have for you guys here. So come on, let's have a look. Okie dokie, so I'm sure you are all interested in the big nitty gritty as to what's in the deck, the interesting stuff. So we're not really gonna go in turn cost order this time. We're gonna go and start with the Frieza engine first, and of course, for any Frieza deck, for any cooler deck, you must run the full playset of King Cold. Turn 0, obviously, Frieza family, cooler family allows you to search your deck for a cooler or a Frieza, reveal it, and put it on top of your deck. You can also discard King Cold in your strategy phase for a Chi and basically heal one of your what am I looking for here? Heal one of your cooler or Frieza right there. So it's a really cool card, obviously, for a turn 0. It's really good. The 3-0 is excellent stats, obviously. Injury stats, absolutely horrible, but that's when you sacrifice him to heal one of your guys. So definitely versatile, and it just perfectly fits this deck. Then, as I said, we're not really going to go in turn cost order. We are running two turn 2 Friezas. Obviously, it costs you an alien chi, but the stats are absolutely brilliant. I run this Frieza in pretty much any and every deck where I run alien, because that support value of 3 is great, and you can always have this combo of using the King Call to drop your Frieza. Now, this particular Frieza is the super rare from set 1, not the Frieza you get in the starter deck. That Frieza is not as good as this one, but if you have that, you don't have this, you can still use that one as well. It's not the worst card. It's still a 3-3, but it's a 0-0, I believe, or maybe a 1-1 when it's damaged, but its effect is not as good. But anyway, what we do care about, and what both of these turn 2 Friezas have, is Evolution 3, Frieza the second form. And that's where our real little roller coaster ride is going to start, because we do indeed run 2 of the second form Friezas, which on the surface looks like a good card, but actually it is not that great. And realistically, the only reason why I'm running this is because it is the second form. You can evolve into this guy from your base Frieza in turn 3. So a turn earlier than when you could normally play the second form, and also you don't have to pay the chi cost when you're evolving, so you get a freebie there. But in reality, yes, you do get a 5-3. A lot of the times you're just going to be running them like that. Certainly I did it through the playtesting that I've done. So you're still not really gaining a hell of a lot, because the base Frieza gave you that 3 support. This gives you the 3 support. And if you look at the injured stats, they're absolutely horrific. 0-0 is not great at all. But it is what it is. It is more a stepping stone than anything else in this particular deck. Now, the next evolution phase, third form, I think it's a really good card, actually. But Bandai has done something extremely horrific to the player base. You can only get the third form Friezas from the starter deck. There is no way to get the third form from any other way unless you went and bought the starter decks. And you can't play final form unless you have the third form. So really cheeky move from Bandai. I suppose it is one way to push your products, but it's not dissimilar from the tactics they use nowadays, particularly if you look at the massive dump of cards that we get in the TCG game, the current Dragon Ball game. Anyway, third form, we can evolve into the third form in our fourth turn So again, a turn before we could play the third form, which is good. It has Fierce 1, which is again really good. It's our only option to go into the final form, and the stats, I like the stats. We still only get the 3 support, but again, that 3 support is the theme that goes all the way through these 3 freezes. It is a very good attacker though, and even as injured, it is a 4-0, which is very good. It actually is a stronger card than the turn 5 Goku that you get. Obviously, in set 1, it's stronger than the one that you get in the starter deck as well, the Super Rare. And Evolution 6 into the final form of Frieza, which of course can only be played through Evolution from this card, unless you obviously can drop it into play with some cards. This is also one of the only cards, this and a couple of starter exclusives that also came out in the first starter decks. This one, the Krillin, I think Captured, and there's another one. There's a technique, super technique, I can't remember its name right now. Awakening of the Power, something like that. You can't get these cards in foil. They don't exist in foil form. Just a little bit of freebie there for you guys. But anyway, this is our chain, so we hopefully start with King Cold, get a Freezer out, or if we have any of these guys in our hand, you probably want to go for the evolution before that or the evolution after that. If you're lucky enough to get a turn 2 Freezer, get the second form, hopefully draw into one of these. Or, potentially, what we're going to do is we're of course going to use some extra cards to get these guys into our hands. But this is our Freezer chain, this is what we're working with. But unfortunately, this is not the greatest chain of all times, and even though King Cold did give it a lot of boost in set 5, it is still, first of all, it's quite expensive to get. We're talking about 4 super rares here. And even if you get the starter Frieza, which isn't as good, that is also super rare, so you have to get one or the other anyway if you want to get into this. One thing I used to run back in the days is just the third form and the final form. So you can get the final form out, because the final form is actually great. I didn't even detail the final form, sorry. So we got Toughness, Fierce 2, which is great. And with a Dragon Ball coin, all the opposing warriors with a turn cost of 3 or less get -2/-2 until the end of turn. So if you can obviously combo this card with, I don't know, anything that, like a burning attack that takes 2 turn cost off one of your opponent's warriors, then you can include even more in that -2/-2. I'm not really going for that in this deck. But it's definitely something that is worthwhile, and it's a great support warrior. 7/4. Again, it's probably one of those warriors I would rather use for support than attack, unless I have to attack with him, of course. So this is our lineup, and this is pretty much it for our Friezas. One thing you have to realize, obviously, you can never have 2 of these Friezas out unless you have Alternate Future or something like that out, which we don't run in this deck. So we need a very strong, very good faction to support this chain. When this chain is running, it's excellent because you get basically a free upgrade each turn. From turn 2 onwards, turn 3 you can get your second form out. Turn 4 you can get your third form out, and then turn 6 you can get your 7th form out. So you can be ahead of the curve by 1 turn, as long as you get the right cards. But it doesn't mean you will always get the right cards. And with some playtesting, I realized you need 3 Yamchas. Now, I was running 1 Yamcha, 2 Zunamas, because Zunamas are a great card, but in reality, Yamcha will always get you. That's right, you might have guessed it. We are running here Bojack's gang. So we got 3 Kogus, and what we really want to use Yamcha for, we got 2 Bujins here, and we have 2 Zangias. 2 Beto, and 2 Bojack. So, let's see what we got here. Obviously, again, it's a tried and tested method to use Yamcha to get out Zangia. Not only will that make Yamcha even more useful, but Yamcha also gives +0/+1 to each female warrior behind him. So if for any reason you don't get any of these other guys, you can just keep Yamcha as your lead warrior and put Zangia behind him. Zangia will give all male opposing warriors +1/-1, +0/-1, sorry, and you will basically have a team power of 6, plus you minus your opponent's cards, plus Zangia has Fierce 1, and Zangia has this effect if any Bojack's Gang Warrior uses a technique card, you can give target Bojack's Gang Warrior +1/+1, and of course that can be herself, so that's pretty amazing. I always run 3 Kogus. You should really try and fit 3 Kogus in whenever you can. Purely for the reason is because he has ally Bojack's Gang. He's got backup, so it's not too difficult to get him out into play. But he gives all other Bojack's Gang Warrior cards +1/+0. What that means to us is not only he can be a freebie warrior, you can have a team of Bito, Zangia, Bujin, and you can slot in Kogu for free. And basically he will give you another 2, but he will give you a 3 support value. And for a 1 cost, turn cost card, that is amazing. So if you got Bito out, and of course Bito has the errata where he gives all Bojack's Gang Warriors +0/+1. If you got a Bito out and a Kogu out, just the 2 of them, Kogu will be a 2/2/1, so Kogu will be a 2/3, and Bito will be a 5/1, will be a 6/0, so just the 2 of them together are a 9 team power. And then you can get Bujin in, you can get Zangia in, and Kogu will be a free warrior. Basically, you can have a team of 4 guys. So Kogu, absolutely brilliant card. Bujin, here in the corner, let me put him in the middle. Another massive favorite card of mine. Backup, when an opposing warrior becomes the user of a reinforcement technique, that warrior gets -1/-1. So it's very similar what he does to what Krillin does, but Zangia is basically a hard copy of Krillin, but Krillin gives a -1/-1 modifier to one of the opposing warriors when he uses a technique card. So they basically do very similar stuff. Zangia is obviously outweighing the starter Krillin that I'm talking about. But back to Bujin, sorry, I'm just here and there. So that's a really good ability, although yes, it is very circumstantial. A lot of decks might not run reinforcements, so you want to make sure you always ask your opponent what they're playing. And if he has a Dragon Ball coin, at the start of your turn, you can move a technique card from your opponent's chi to their discard area, which is huge. You can minus their chi, which is very, very, very useful. Again, gives you that very versatile approach. You can give -1/-1s out, you can plus your guys, you can give +1/-1 to all the male warriors, you got Fierce there, they both have backup, and you got the bottom and the top guys that just beef everybody up. So honestly, Bojack's Gang is definitely really, really good. They carry this deck on their own, to be quite honest. When your Frieza chain doesn't work out, you can still very much rely on your Bojack's Gang guys. Again, most of them come with backup, so we got backup on Yamcha, Kogu, Bujin, Zangia, Bito. Talking of Bito, again, he has Fierce 1, excellent stats. Look at that 5/0/5/0. Even if injured, he will give 100%. Just a really, really, really good card, and gives all the other Bojack Gang Warrior cards +0/+1. So he's basically your pseudo Bojack. In case your Bojack doesn't come out, you can always get your Bito out with backup. In some ways, Bito is probably a better card than Bojack, and I am so sorry that I said that, but if you want to build a Bojack deck and you don't have these super rare Bojacks, just build them with Bito. Just make sure you play 3 Bitos, and you'll pretty much be fine, and put in obviously somebody for turn 5 if you have a Turles, or even just running these Friezas. You can quite easily run this deck without the Bojacks, and you're still up to a very, very good, solid deck. Yes, Bojack is an absolutely great card. I love it. Great art. just does so many things. Again, he's versatile like all the other Bojack's Gang cards. You can really see that they have pushed pretty much all these cards to get basically the whole team out for set 5. And they have done a really good job. This is the go-to deck. If you want to start to build competitive stuff. But anyway, back to Bojack. Bojack's the only guy from the gang that actually costs you a chi, but even he will only cost you 1 chi, turn cost of 5. He's got toughness and fierce too, so already great. And then he's got this ability to other Bojack's gang warriors you control get +1/+1. So it's what you need to bear in mind is none of the abilities that these guys have are valid, except their special effects. So the toughness, the fierce 2, the backup, ally Bojack's gang, those are valid special abilities, but all these guys have negatable effects. So if they do get injured, they won't be able to give you the extra power. So you want to be very careful with that stuff if they do get damaged. The only guy who has a valid ability is Bojack, down here at the bottom. It's a valid ability. You can use it in a strategy phase, either yours or your opponent's, whether you're attacker or defender. He does need a Dragon Ball, and what you can do is you can discard a Bojack's Gang warrior you control and put a growth coin on this warrior. What's good about this is exactly for the reason what I have just said before. What you do is if any of your guys get injured, what you do is you discard it from the game. You say, all right, fuck it, we don't want you anymore. Very true to what he does in the movie as well. So I really like that they really represent. The only thing that they maybe potentially could have done is change Kogu and Biro, because I had a feeling that Kogu is the stronger from the two of them. But again, that's just me being nitpicky realistically. So anyway, Bojack, really good. If you got that Dragon Ball on him, you can just basically, what you can do is, alright, well, I have this Kogu's damaged, doesn't really do much anymore, so I'll sacrifice the Kogu, put the growth coin on Bojack, Kogu goes into your discard, then if you have another Kogu in your chi, you just back up for him, and you can play Kogu out again. So it's a pretty sweet little thing you can get going with these guys. So that's pretty much it for our warriors. And it's a nice list. As I said, I have done playtesting and I have upped the Yamcha count to 3 of 1, taken out those 2 Zunamas. They're good, but not good enough for this deck. Now, I'm sure you've noticed that one of our biggest problems is that our big guys, our big finishers, these two, they don't have backup at all. And that was an issue I came across during playtesting. And originally, I was running 3 UFO landings, but I found that it's pretty difficult to get it out. You were never gonna be able to activate to draw the extra card of the UFO landing if you go into Frieza family, because the best case you will have King Cold and 1 of the Friezas out, so you won't have 3 warriors. And whether you believe it or not, it's actually quite difficult to get 3 Bojack Gang warriors out. You basically are looking at turn 3, turn 4 by the time you get 3 Bojack Gang warriors out. Just purely because turn 2 you probably don't want to play your Bujin, you probably want to play your Frieza to be able to start the evolution. So I've taken out the 2 UFO landings, and it is a bit of a it's a heartache because I love that card, but it doesn't really quite work in this deck. What we do have instead are 2 backup has arrived. So this does obviously multiple duties for us. We can give backup to all our warriors in our chi area, and the only guys who don't have backup is King Cold, Bojack, and all the Friezas. But everybody else, Bujin, Zangia, Kogu, and Biro, they do have backup, and Yamcha as well. But we are able to bring back our big hitters, or maybe a missing link in the chain. We might have a final form Frieza in our hand. It might be turn 6. We'll decide to drop that third form Frieza and immediately evolve into final form. Yes, you can evolve immediately as soon as you play a warrior that has the ability to evolve into a higher cost character that obviously is specifically defined under the special abilities. So backup has arrived, a really good card, costs you 1 villain chi, turn cost of 3, time limit of 2, so you get, basically with a time limit of 2, you get 3 turns how long you can use this. But even if your opponent removes it, you want to do the backup as soon as you play this card, so it doesn't get wasted. Just always assume your opponent's going to be able to get rid of this card. And so when you drop the backup has arrived, make sure you do the backup that you need as well, and save it until you are able to do that. You can only do backups with changing the same symbol for the same symbol card, so please bear that in mind. And I'm just looking at this. Oh dear, this has seen better days. Just saw that little scratch there. So anyway, 2 backup has arrived. And oh, the heart of the deck, and this is why I couldn't do this profile until now. I finally have 2 copies of Ultimate Transformation. I had the 1 copy for many years. I had it since 2012. I think I've opened one in my first booster box of Clash of Sagas, I think so. But anyway, what this card does, this card really beefs up the Cell, the Frieza, the Cooler decks. Basically, turn 3, 2 chi cost strategy, you search your planet for a warrior with form in its name. So again, that leaves you with Frieza, Cell, and Cooler. And trust me, I checked. You can put that card into your hand, and if you play that card, if you put that card into play through evolution, it gets a growth coin, which is huge. So if you get final form Frieza into play from your 3rd form, instead of him being a 7/4, he actually comes out as an 8/5. It's just ridiculously good. An 8/5. Remember that number, because that will be important in a minute, that he could be an 8/5. Ideally, I would run 3 of this. I'm not gonna lie. If I had a 3rd one, I would definitely take this card out, which I'm running currently as a substitute. Super Gravity Room is a very underrated card. I think probably a lot of people don't even look at this card thinking this is playable. Well, you're wrong. If you don't, particularly if you don't have a draw engine, and because I have dropped UFO landing, best case scenario is we can put cards on the top of our deck. We have a level of manipulation, obviously backup has arrived, helps us in that matter as well, but we don't really have card draw abilities. So Super Gravity Room, turn cost of 3, 2 any chi. Even though it is an Earth card, it has 2 open chis that you can pay for. It's also a tool, by the way, which is very useful for a lot of different decks. If you're running Wheelo, if you're running the GT Trunks, if you're running Strategy Session, this card is there. So with a Dragon Ball on the Warrior who's using this, if you have 1 or less cards in your hand, you draw 2 cards. Now when you play Super Gravity, so you can have this card in your hand and another one, and then you play Super Gravity Room, you will have 1 card in your hand. When you play this, you draw 2 cards. It's a lot better than Hoi Poi Capsule, because first of all it comes down a turn early, and it also costs you 2 generic chi rather than having to pay 2 Earth, which you could not do in this deck. But it gives you that ability just to take this 1 card and have 2 more cards up in your hand, which can be, you know, just that, okay, now I can do my backup that I need to do, or something like that. So this is a one-off for now, but if I ever get a 3rd Ultimate Transformation, 100% this is coming out. This is definitely one of the most important cards in the deck for sure. It's a set 5 super rare. I can't believe that I'm struggling to find this. It's one of those crazy things. So, okay, Ultimate Transformation, 1 Super Gravity Room, just as a substitute for now. And then we have 2 reversals. Reversal, again, an underrated card, comes from set 1, but I have recently been playtesting another deck profile that I will be bringing you guys, and I have been playing with Jankengu, which is basically the twin brother of this card, but it comes out in Super, and instead of giving out -2/+0, one of the user of the technique gets +2/+0. And again, it's a turn 1 card, it costs you 1 super cheap, but that's what Reversal does. But instead of your warrior being buffed, you actually -1 of your opponents. Why is that important? It's important because there are a lot of cards out that can stop you from being able to buff your own warriors out. So if your opponent plays a Katana Slice on you, one of your guys, I believe that card now can't be affected by any cards, so you're not actually able to pump your own guy. That's fine, not a problem. With Reversal, what we're doing, we're actually messing with our opponent's warriors. We're giving them -2/+0, and we basically go around this effect that a lot of decks tend to do. And it's a 1 cost, so you basically play for free because you got 1 reverse. Let's say you got 1 card in your chi, you got a Reversal in your chi. You then say, okay, well, King Cole is using Reversal. You pay the 1 chi cost, but he then goes back into your chi. So you've done this for basically no loss of chi, which is very important. Very, very, very important. We also have 2 Exploiting the Weak. Couple of reasons why this card is in here. Again, it's a very low turn cost card you can play, so you can do early protection for your guys if need be. Also, it affects every warrior in your opponent's, every warrior that your opponent controls with a turn cost less than the user's turn cost. They all get -1/-1. So it could be that, okay, so if you got like Bojack out and Bojack uses Exploiting the Weak, it gets better with each turn, basically, is what I'm trying to say. If Bojack uses it, all your opponent's warriors in the action phase you play it, they will all get -1/-1. And you can also discard an event with a turn cost less than the user's turn cost. So you can get rid of cards like Backup Has Arrived or UFO Landing or Code Legacy, things like that. It's important to have event removal in your deck if you can make that possible. Remember what I said, if you get Frieza Final Form out with the Ultimate Transformation, he will be an 8/5. Wow, that's where we can really combo with 4 Witches Technique. An absolute staple of a villain card. Turn 2, and it costs you only 2 chi, so that's a pretty good trade-off. And in the action phase, target user gets +0/+X until end of turn, where X is the target user's support value. It's just mind-blowingly good, isn't it? It doubles the support value, and if you checked out our Friezas, even though I do keep saying that, yeah, this is a Frieza deck, a Frieza line, all our Friezas basically want to be support warriors, unless you're really hard pushed. And all these guys, they can double up their support value with 4 Witches Techniques. So this Frieza, behind this King Cole, for example, they're obviously a team power of 6, but you can basically pump up Frieza to be a 6 plus King Cole a 3, so then just with this 1 card you get a team power of 9. Now if you're talking about Frieza Final Form and it came off with the growth coin, your 5 support now becomes a 10 support, which is just absolutely crazy. And even your Bojack's gang guys, your Kogu, for example, if Kogu's behind a Beto and Beto gives him +1/+1, your Kogu's now 3/3. With a 4 Witches Technique, your Kogu is now 3/6. So it's just epic. It's such a good card. Honestly, I love this card. Super, super good card. And then to finish off, we have a couple of one-offs. And of course, the one that doesn't really need any introduction, Dignity of the Conqueror, because you build your decks with 39 cards and 1 Dignity. It's been said time and time on. That's really what you do. Obviously, restricted to 1. Actually got out through playtesting. It's done exactly what it was supposed to do. Got me a really, 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 really nice win. We do run a Death Ball. It's the Frieza flavor that runs through this deck. Death Ball, I was toying with the idea of Psylocke Smasher, however you name it, but I ended up with Death Ball because realistically, that one Death Ball is pretty much a carbon copy of Dignity of the Conqueror. Only the fact that you do have a quite hefty requirement. You have to be Frieza final form turn 7. You need to have the Dragon Ball, but basically instead of getting the warrior out of the team, what DOTC does, Death Ball will send it back to the top of your opponent's deck. So they obviously, if it there is no turn cost restriction, so you can send back a fusion warrior, which of course can't go back on the top of the deck. They will then basically go away. I believe they get removed from game in that case. So there is no turn cost restriction as to what you can and you can't send back. This is basically a Joker card, takes it all out. So excellent, love it. And attack choice, Sucking Blood. It is a treatment card, which means we can heal one of our warriors, which is great. Particularly if you remember what I said about the... basically, most of our warriors have pretty crap injury statuses, except Bojack, except third form and final form Frieza, and the top two guys are Beto and are Bojack. They're okay actually when it comes to their stats, but we want to have obviously one that we can use on our Bojack's gang. King Cole will take care of our Friezas, that's not a problem, but we need something extra to be able to deal with any of these guys. If you don't get Bojack out, you can still heal them up. And on top of that, target opposing warrior with a turn cost of 2 or less gets -1/-1 until the end of turn, and then you heal the user. So not only are we healing our user, but also we can give out a -1/-1 coin to one of our opponent's warriors with turn cost of 2 or less, and they most likely are going to have one, particularly if you're playing this early game. So it's a really nice little tech choice. I quite like the idea of it. What I don't like, and I don't normally do this kind of stuff, is have too many one-offs in the deck. But right now I'm experimenting with a lot of different things. I'm glad that I'm fortunate enough to be able to build so many decks. I really am very, very grateful that I have the capability. I do spend quite some time looking for these cards, guys. Don't forget that these things just fly through your window and land on your desk. That's not the case. You have to be persistent. I have been persistent for the past 9 years. That's why I have the collection that I have. I don't know anybody who has a larger collection than myself, but that's not to say you need to envy it. I'm trying to get this game to stay alive and hopefully bring you some interesting little decks every once in a while. So this is it for the Frieza deck. I apologize that the past couple of weeks you've been seeing me wearing the same clothes. I had to pre-record quite a few videos. I had an operation, but I am feeling better. I'm still recovering, but I'm able to sit in my chair now, which I wasn't capable of doing for the past 2 weeks, give or take a few more days. But I'm back now, and I will be able to bring you more deck profiles and carry on enjoying this beautiful game of Dragon Ball CCG. And I might have a few surprises for you next year as well if all goes well. Fingers crossed. But for now, Saiyan signing out. Peace out, YouTube.